This episode of the Leap Forward podcast is brought to you by bridgeLT, leaders in conversational learning and innovation. Through AI role plays, technical simulators, and comprehensive training programs, bridgeLT is revolutionizing the future of corporate and enterprise education.
Join us on Leap Forward as we welcome Steve Yore, Strategic Account Director at eDynamics, a leader transforming automotive retail through technology. Discover how listening to dealers created their industry-standard online check-in system and learn how unified platforms and AI are reshaping the business. Steve's career-defining advice: never turn down an opportunity. Get ready for actionable insights on the tech revolutionizing automotive retail.
I'm really delighted to welcome to this edition of Leap Forward, Steve here from Dynamics. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, good pleasure to be here.
So let's kick things off. Briefly introduce yourself, the business, and the role you play in it.
Yeah, of course. So my name's Steve Yore, as you mentioned. I am one of the strategic account directors at eDynamics. We've been going now for 15 years. As a company, we're a platform provider, and we're providing a suite of solutions, around about 20 different solutions across sales and after sales to the automotive industry. We provide those to both a retailer or dealer level and also OEM level, as well as independents, etc. as well. So yeah, we've present in it's getting on for about 20 different countries now. We have a relationship with pretty much half of the UK motor industry, which is our dominant market at this moment in time. Although, as I mentioned, we are spreading our wings and implementing our solutions across the globe, focusing mostly in Europe at the moment.
Great. And so tell us a little bit about your journey. How did you kind of get to the role you're in?
Yeah, it's I'll try and keep it concise because I can make it as long as I want sometimes. But if I cast my mind back, I basically left school and was an apprentice in a Vauxhall dealership back in 1997, which is frightening because that's nearly 30 years ago when you really think about it. But yeah, I kind of just worked my way up through doing the various roles in after sales in different dealers. You've probably heard it many times before, but technician, service advisor, service manager, after sales manager. Did most of the roles you could possibly imagine in a dealership, but on that side of it, right up until about 2014. By that time, I'd been a customer of eDynamics for 4 years since eDynamics started back in 2010. So the crossover starts there. So yeah, I was a customer of eDynamics for 4 years. I then got into consulting through the dealer I was working with. Went off and did that. Worked for ASE for throughout 3 years doing in a consulting role. I was living the dream, going around all around Europe and consulting everywhere you can imagine. But being on the road gets quite tiresome. So at that point, I kind of reached out to eDynamics and said, really would love to come and work for you, having used the products in the past. I believe I've got the wealth of experience I have got, and yeah, it kind of went on from there. So I joined eDynamics on the 1st of January 2018, and haven't looked back. So yeah, joined originally as an account manager, then became an account director. I've been doing that for a number of years now, and in my role, I now look after predominantly OEMs and the larger dealer groups as well. Those two types of business tend to operate in a similar fashion, and yeah, that's essentially where I end up, or where I've ended up now. Although I do look after quite a lot of the product developments, because quite a number of OEM projects we do lends itself to actually developing new solutions and modifying what we already have. Although our core business is as a software as a solution provider, and that's through providing any one of our number of systems.
Wow. You seem to have kind of almost played every kind of role, I suppose, in a sense, on that kind of journey, which must give you a really great kind of perspective, when you're talking to your clients. And also, I think it's really interesting that you're working with the dealer groups and the OEMs as well. So you're sort of seeing both sides kind of in real time, I suppose. Give me a sense of kind of where you feel kind of the industry is today. What are the kind of key challenges that you're facing, your clients are facing, and what are the opportunities?
Absolutely. I suppose the evolution of our company kind of mirrors how the industry's changed over the last 5 to 10 years, or even further. I suppose we were born out of a single requirement as a service plan provider. Um, Purely and as a single solution. And over those last 15 years, it's actually our 15th anniversary this year, we've added solution after solution for different requirements the industry's had, whether it be EVHC or CRM or online booking, and many other in between. But what we've noticed over those last 15 years is the industry's become tired of having lots of what we call point solution providers, lots of systems you've got to log into every day, lack of integration and all that type of thing. So we've transitioned from being a provider of multiple solutions to actually being a provider of a single platform that houses those solutions within it. And the thing we hear time and time again, whether it be from dealers or whether it be from OEMs themselves, is that everyone is just wanting to consolidate systems. They want to unify data, unify reporting, unify all of the intelligence that we have across the industry. And some brands, not naming names, they have upwards of 20 to 30 systems that they expect um, their users to log into just to do their day-to-day job. Back when I was doing it, even 15 years ago, I was logging into 10 plus systems a day, and the world's moved on massively now. There's way more processes, way more digital systems. So I really feel for the people who are still having to juggle all those different platforms. So that's what we hear a lot of. Same thing from everyone, really. We recognize there's got to be an invoicing solution in the DMS, but beyond that, we really don't want all these disparate systems anymore.
Really interesting. And I also really want to ask you about sort of that kind of product dev role as well, because you're obviously hearing this, kind of firsthand from both sides, and then you're taking that to kind of product team, and sort of then you're looking at kind of like how you can build out solutions based on those conversations with the product guys. Tell me a little bit about kind of that process, and how, particularly, I suppose, in a sense, sort of like that vision of unification, I suppose, in a sense, is being driven by advances in tech and AI.
100%, yeah. So to be honest, the requirements come from different angles. I've already mentioned myself. I've worked at a dealer for many years. A lot of the UK team of eDynamics, it has that motor industry background as well. So we bring with ourselves that experience and knowledge. But what we pride ourselves on doing is listening to our customers, whether it be dealers, whether it be OEMs, and really understand what it is that they're wanting. And that could be right down to a very specific piece of functionality, or it could be an actual, a new system that's been asked for. I'll give you a great example of that in just a moment. But the other branch of it is that, it could be a tender we're responding to at an OEM level, that an OEM wants a specific tool building or something like that. So we do get requests from all different parts of the industry, right, even down to a single user who might have a great idea, right up to someone at an organizational level who wants a solution building. I think one of the best stories I like to give as an example of this is if you cast your mind back 5 years ago, we're right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and what happened, as everyone remembers back then, especially in dealers, is everyone got furloughed. So your workforce was reduced dramatically down to probably a skeleton staff, and processes went out the window. Things just didn't happen. And one of our dealers actually reached out to us and said, "Look, we're having a real problem," because we would normally call the customers the day before they visit, just to make sure everything's still okay, they're still going to arrive, and we just can't do it right now because we don't have the manpower to make those phone calls. There's, what we really could do with is an online check-in solution, like you have in the online airline industry. And we were like, yeah, well, that sounds like a great idea. Let's talk it through. So we got together, via Teams as it was back then, and because everyone was using Zoom and Teams, talked it through, got the basics idea of what the requirements were, and then because we had the luxury of time to develop in that period because there wasn't the level of requirement in terms of support and things like that. We could eventually had some spare development time, so we basically just built online check-in in a couple of months, rolled it out. It was an overnight success. Everyone was like, this is brilliant, this is what we need. And to be honest, it's now become one of our halo products. And that's just a great example of where one idea from someone in a dealership reaching out to us with it then becomes almost an industry standard now. And 5 years later, pretty much every OEM has approved it as a solution. And now we're actually requesting their dealer network to implement it as a core standard. And things like this just grow, and you can never, you have to listen to everyone and try and there's no such thing as a bad idea until you've talked it through and decided is it going to work. We've tried things and that haven't worked in the past, but sometimes you get something like that. It's like a real gem. It's perfect thing at the right time, and then all the effort went into it, and it's been a great success for us. And we've got many more stories like that I could regale you with, but that's one of my favorites because it's one of those simple ideas that just became absolutely huge.
Love it. It's brilliant. And obviously to the customer, the end customer, it's beautiful as well, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Just to finish off the story, actually, just very quickly, the person who had that idea is actually now one of our account managers and works for us. And he continues to give us fantastic ideas.
Ideas to reality. And yeah, I think it's really funny, isn't it, when you cast your mind back to kind of that time, and how kind of like necessity is often the mother of all invention as well, right? It's sort of like that big innovations kind of happen at those moments of real kind of challenge and tension, and sort of it's a great one. I definitely want to hear more stories though. Don't hold them back.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
I have a whole caseload of them.
awesome. And I think the kind of the data piece that you sort of talked about as well, I think I'm really interested in kind of how you're able to kind of, I suppose, in a sense, sort of like enable your customers to kind of really turn that sort of data into insight and productivity and efficiency and effectiveness. Any stories along that line?
Yeah, I think that there's several buzzwords around at the moment. You've already mentioned AI, and I guess we'll come to that shortly. But before AI, the buzzword in the industry was absolutely, and still is, integration. Um, we've joined other people's partner programs because the industry recognized that integration across platforms and systems is one of the ways we can consolidate people having to log into multiple systems and transfer data and all those type of things. It's actually then enabled us to and made us realize we need our own partner program, because we've grown over those 15 years to be a small organization with only a few people to now one with almost 200 people, most of that in software and development. And integration plays a big key part of that. So we've just recently launched our own partner program because we had people knocking on our door now saying, we've got data, you've got data, people are having to manually key it, double key it, whatever it might be. We really, can we join your partner program now? Obviously, we didn't even have one at one point, but then we've just launched it, and the moment we launched it, everyone's knocking on our door, emails flying in, say we really want to join. Our partner program manager's never been busier, and integration into whether it be simple file data exchanges or really deep layered API integrations, that's what the industry is really focusing on at the moment. Yes, AI is great and that's going to help us in the future, but we still have several hurdles right now to get past, whereby systems need to be talking to each other in a more succinct way, whether it be partner to partner, dealers to partner, dealer to OEM, OEM to partner, all these different directions that data can flow. This is what we're trying to get through and get to. So yeah, people we've never spoke to in the past, we're now talking to, and yeah, it's really, really exciting where the industry's heading these days. We've got, I think it's something like, it's almost getting on to 160, 170 data integration partners. So just to kind of shows you the level of conversation and the level of data flows that are there. And all of this is really just to make it simple for the end user, and for whether you're a brand or whether you're a single end user in a dealership. All you want is for the data to come to you, and you don't have to go chasing it, and you don't have to transfer data manually from one system to another. That's ultimately what we're trying to get past.
I mean, you've been doing this a while now, both personally and and as a business, I suppose, in a sense. When you're kind of looking back, I think the COVID kind of example is one kind of key chapter, key milestone. What are the other kind of major sort of moments, or game changing kind of sort of shifts in that you've sort of seen kind of in your career? How is what can you look back on and go, that was a game changing moment for the industry, for the business, for me?
I suppose there's the obvious ones like video, going electronic with EVHC. Although you still hear the odd rumor of someone trying to do that on process on paper, but that's pretty much a thing of the past now. But yeah, the advent of video. I already mentioned online check-in was a massive game changer. The bigger one of recent times is self-service. As an industry, we're behind others in terms of self-service. Pretty much every supermarket you walk into now, there is the ability to self-serve. You can fly to another country without speaking to another human being, and that includes booking your ticket, arranging transport. You can do the whole thing without ever speaking to a human. Banking. I could reel off many industries that allow you to self-serve. Automotive, we're probably lagging behind, although we are catching up rapidly. But us being able to implement those solutions, not just online check-in, but online booking, key drop, all of those self-serve functionalities, online payments, all of that. These are all, they've crept up on us, but they're now all of a sudden happened all at once, where people are like, well, I need a self-serve solution. I think that is the most recent game changer, if you like. Going back further, it's harder to remember when you've been in the industry that long what happened when. But for me, I think I grew up working it completely on paper, and over time we've implemented digital systems, and we've tried to those have been running alongside paper, but we're now getting to a point where the industry is screaming to go paperless. So this is the next, before we get to AI and all the fancy stuff that's going to do, we need to properly digitize our industry. So that's going to be I think the next real push that we have. We're kind of getting there with self-serve, but paperless, and making the customer experience completely digital if they want it. Because obviously some customers will still want a physical piece of paper to leave the dealership with. But we need to get to a point where, like in the shops, you pay for something now and they say, do you want us to email your receipt to you? Well, that's where we need to be at. So, I think that's going to be another game changer for the industry, once all of the systems are talking to each other properly.
And you've obviously performed various roles in your career. You talked about sort of, after sales, tech, and so forth, right? What kind of do you see as being the big shifts in the skills that you need to do the job, and how's that changed?
I suppose never more has there been the need for computer literacy than there has been before. A lot of functionality and systems are delivered through different devices, whether it be a handheld tablet device, phone, a laptop, or via a self-serve device like a key drop locker or something like that. So the ability to comprehend how these systems work and be able to manipulate them, as I've already mentioned, what we're trying to move away from paper. So the skill set of being able to move data around, ideally easily without double keying, as I say, that is becoming more and more important to the whole industry now. Still a bit of pushback with not wanting to let go of that comfort blanket that is the job card, but certainly those skills. Thinking about video, for example, we've done video for quite a long time in the industry, but there's still a need to constantly train and improve with video. we're actually working on some tools, talking about AI now, actually, we're working on tools to assist people in producing quality video, whether it be a technician walking around a vehicle, or a salesman walking around, or saleswoman walking around a vehicle, to just try and sell that particular, present that vehicle to the customer. There's loads of things we can do now to assist people with that. So we're kind of moving from a time where people had to learn how to present on camera, which a lot of people don't know how to do naturally, and they have to be taught, whereas we can guide them. We can put things on screen like overlays and things like that to help them position the camera properly, tell them what to say, lead them around the vehicle or whatever it might be. So I think that's where we can help with those skills that may be lacking in the industry, and use things like AI and other solutions to try and help those people to learn those things faster.
That's really interesting. That whole ability to be able to kind of almost learn on the job, learn in real time. And I guess, when you're constantly innovating the platform, new features, new products, you've got to bring your customers with you, right? So, how, that onboarding, that getting them comfortable, confident in using these new products and innovations that you're doing, is critical for their success.
It is absolutely, and we actually put a lot of time and effort into when we're designing new solutions to say, right, is this going to be easy to use? Are people just going to understand it? We try to build things where they don't need training and they just make sense. You can't always get it right first time, so we'll follow that up with talking to the people that are using the systems, physically, whether it be physically on site, or follow-up calls via Teams or things like that. Try and get feedback from people. And it's a constant evolution of trying to make sure that things are just intuitive and just make sense. You still need to do training, obviously, but we try to minimize that. Although where we can, we'll also change our delivery mechanisms. So it could be that we embed a training video, a very short one, within an application, so people can watch a 2-minute video, quickly understand how something works, and just get on with it. If it's a much bigger system, then we might do an advanced delivery through Teams and try and do it ahead of time and do it remotely. Another thing that came out of COVID is people having to teach each other virtually rather than physically. We do still try and turn up on site where it's a big project and we have to make sure people understand, but we're realizing there's actually different ways to educate people, trying to embed short 1-minute tutorials within a particular page, just to help them learn and understand a new feature's been made available. As well as the classic send out a newsletter and tell people about new functionalities. We also have a news board on our platform as well. The platform's called X, though I haven't mentioned that yet, so just we should get that in there. But yeah, you're trying to just make it, instead of the classic day of classroom training before something goes live, those things are a thing of the past. People don't always learn that well in that scenario. So we're trying to just come up with lots of different ways to get through to people and make people aware of new functionalities, if it's not a simple system, if it's not a functionality that's easily to understand.
And you mentioned tablets. Tell me a little bit about sort of like what devices are people using now? Really interested in the kind of proliferation of different devices. Presuming that most of them are digital, as you said, like getting them off paper. But what are they using?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have an array of apps for different parts of our system. So typically in the workshop, the technicians will be using something like an iPad of varying size, but something like an iPad mini, if you imagine how that size is, something quite portable, but it's not the size of a phone either. It's a kind of in between. And as I said before, we're moving towards a paperless platform where technician can do everything they need in that one device. So whether it be clocking on and off the job, doing their write-up, which they can even dictate into the device and that will write it up for them, or shooting the video to send to the customer, recording the vehicle health check, all of those things are done within the same app by the technician. So that's just one example of doing that. But being paperless will also mean that front of house teams will need to communicate with the customer, maybe go out to their vehicle to do a damage inspection or capture additional information that they would normally capture on a job card. So again, they're using a tablet as well, probably something a bit larger because it's customer facing, but that would be a different app that they would be using on there. But we've also got payment systems now. We've got our own white label payment platform that integrates with various payment providers. And an example there, it could be that a delivery driver could, delivering parts, may need to take payment from their customers when they're dropping the parts off. So they would just have one of our apps on their phone that they can, send, take a payment from the customer through a Bluetooth mechanism. And then we've got the bigger physical devices as well for our key drop that we build ourselves in there. All of that sits alongside the traditional desktop application, which is through a cloud-based, web-based solution, where that most of the back office work, so whether it's a service advisor or workshop control or parts, they'd all be accessing Exo through a normal desktop PC or laptop. So yeah, you've got all those different devices in the mix. I think we've got there's about 6 apps in total now for the different functions and roles, but most of those will run on, typically they're all designed to run on either an iPad or a phone.
And I'm really interested in the sort of messaging side of the platform as well. So like, proliferation of obviously, first of all, kind of text, and now, we're all, WhatsApp and various other kind of clients have become, just part of our, not just our kind of daily kind of, personal life, but also our work lives. How do you kind of manage that kind of messaging side of that interaction with your customers?
Absolutely. So, interestingly, and it goes back to around about 2021. Another thing we did in the COVID time was, because we realized we had some spare time to develop on our hands, we decided, well, let's completely re-platform. So we built what is now called Exto, the name of our platform. Prior to that, it didn't really have a name. We thought we'll have a relaunch, we'll build it all out, and what else can we put in there? So messaging was absolutely something we wanted to do. We'd always done SMS, we'd always done email, even post. And to be honest, some dealers are still using post now quite effectively in some cases. But what we realized is we need to have that instant two-way communication with customers. They're asking for it. Everyone's time precious and needs to be able to not have to try and call customers to get an update and what have you. So we decided to build our own proprietary messaging platform within Exto itself, and built that into the visit experience of the customer. So we already had this already in our video solution that sales were using. They were loving it, because every time they send a video to a customer, the customer could just reply through that same window. They don't have to go into a messaging app or anything else separately, just reply on the same page. That goes straight back into the users in the dealership, and they can respond in kind. We wanted to move that into the workshop experience as well, so we built that in there and launched it all on the same day. So we turned it on for 1,000 dealers all on the same day, and no one has ever asked to turn it off since. So that was testament to us. We were a bit nervous about doing it. We thought, let's just give it to everyone. I'm sure we were absolutely convinced everyone would love it. The first couple of days, we were there even reading some of the messages just to make sure people were happy, and we were getting really interested in what customers were saying. But it was immediately apparent that customers responded really well to that. And we've running that for 5 years now, and it gets used daily alongside SMS, alongside email. You mentioned WhatsApp. It's also worth mentioning what's something that's really accelerating, and that's RCS. So WhatsApp is obviously owned by who they're owned by, but the likes of Google and Apple, they are wanting to have a more unified standard. So RCS, which is essentially a universal contender to WhatsApp, to make it really, really basic for everyone listening. That is where we see the next evolution of messaging going. WhatsApp's great, and it's served a really, really good purpose for all these years in what it can do, but it is a closed off service by one provider that kind of, they dictate how that works and how much it costs. Whereas we see RCS as being the real way forward, if you like. And we've been evaluating everything for quite a while now. We've had our own system, as I say, for quite some time, but we see that the future is going to be, we're probably going to put our eggs in that basket more so than than going down the WhatsApp route right now. Not saying no to WhatsApp, but it's just we trying to look ahead and see where the industry is going and where the technology industry as a whole is going. That's where we believe we need to be people investing our efforts, if you like.
That's really interesting. Thanks for sharing that. And I'm going to come back to the future in a second. But before I do, I really wanted to get your view on metrics and measurement. Um, how do you think about measuring success?
Well, that's a really good question because we've got 20 different solutions, as I mentioned earlier. And what gets quite difficult is trying to make sure that everyone's using all those 20 different systems as expected. And what's also really important to understand is there's what the brands think is good and there's what the dealers think is good. Quite often they're aligned, sometimes they're not aligned, because each entity has its own opinion on what they want to focus on, what they believe is successful. We get lent on quite a lot, especially for things like vehicle health check, which always has a lot of metrics around it. People always want to know, am I doing well? How do I know this? I'm being told this by one entity and then being told something different by a different entity. I want to know how I'm doing. So we find ourselves working with a lot of our clients to essentially try and simplify it, because there's a lot of KPIs. Just taking vehicle health check for as a simple one, you can easily come up with 30 different KPIs for a vehicle health check process. You only really need two: is how many have I done and how much have I sold. If you're doing well on those two, the rest, by and large, should be fine. So that's just one of my examples of try not to analyze too much, because if you do that, you're going to tie yourself up in knots trying to improve, a 1% increase in a process that really isn't going to make much difference. Try and get to the time, stick with the headlines. And that's what I do when I'm coaching business owners and OEMs and whoever it is that wants to kind of drill into these things. Is like let's just go with the highest level stats. And if those are looking okay, across these 20 different solutions you're trying to manage, then that's the broad brush approach I go with. Yes, if those don't look great, then you're going to have to dive in a bit more and we'll get stuck into the detail. And that's when you then have to have dedicated sessions, right? Let's understand why that's not so good. Let's get some reports out. Let's look at some dashboards, try and understand which metrics are driving those and not contributing to it not working very well. We try and stick to probably 1 or 2 KPIs per module or per process that really indicates whether or not it's doing well.
Love it. Keep it simple. Now it's really interesting. There you were, kind of a consultant, and you kind of approached, the business, and they snapped you up, and you also talked about, your client, your customer who was full of ideas. You snapped them up. So you seem to have kind of got a bit of a strategy around sort of like how you go about recruiting kind of, high performing folks. What qualities do you look for when you're building a team?
Oh, wow, that's a brilliant question. So I've got to be honest, it always has seemed to happen really organically and really naturally for us. We tend not to do recruitment drives. We tend not to do, yes, we might advertise from time to time, but a lot of the time it will be that it's right time, right place sort of thing. We just state that person is going to be great for our business and this is the time to take them on. A lot of our people are ex-customers, so that seems to be a trend. It really does help when people already know the platform, especially, as I say, we have so many systems, so it really helps when people come on board and they already know a lot of what we do. Sometimes we might have a very specific role and we will recruit for that role, and it will be the more traditional process of we need someone to fulfill this role, these are the requirements, is what we're trying to do, etc. But more often than not, especially in the account management side of things, it's people we've known from the past. They're either ex-customers or they're with ex-partners or something like that, and we have a really good relationship with them. And for us, the relationship is paramount. That always drives, and personality and things like that. We try to make sure that the team, and we do have regular team gatherings, where we'll get together and do a team bonding over a couple of days and go out in the evening and all that type of stuff. But yeah, that's what's really important for us is, is this person going to work with the rest of us as a team? Well, not forgetting the 170 people we've got over in Bulgaria. So our development offices are over there. And we often take clients and potential partners and things like that over there as well to meet those guys. Literally, we're there last week with a couple of our clients as well. And we take our teams over there as well. So if someone joins, one of the almost an initiation is to take them over there to meet all the people that are putting the system together and supporting them. Because it's a bit of a cliche, but we genuinely are like one big family, and that's how we kind of think of ourselves and how we kind of recruit, I suppose, at the end of the day.
I get a real sense of that culture actually. It's so critical, isn't it, to kind of maintaining kind of growth, and thriving as an organization. So you talked about RCS and you talked about self-service and where the industry is relative to perhaps other sectors. What other kind of market trends are you really excited about that you can't wait to kind of get your teeth into?
I suppose this is the moment where we talk about AI, isn't it? Because it feels appropriate, and it's. I think everyone's trying to do something with AI. There's a lot of an understanding of what it is everyone expects from it. It's we have to be careful because obviously it can be expensive. Some of the AI services you can purchase, they're frighteningly expensive actually. And what we didn't want to do is just build something that we think everyone wants and say, oh, and by the way, it's going to cost an absolute arm and a leg to have it when there's no real business case for it. So we've taken a bit more of a measured approach, and yes, we've got an AI team. Yes, we're doing AI developments, but we've tried to consult, like we do with everything. As I mentioned before, we take ideas from people. We tried to consult and talk to dealers, talk to OEMs. Like, what do you want? What do you expect AI to do? No idea is too small. So if you just want it to explain the text on the page or simplify what someone has written, fantastic. Do you want it to schedule work into the workshop? Do you want it to go that far and start to replace what we're paying human beings to do? Is that actually going to be how you want to run your business? So because there's a lot of fear, I think, around at the moment that AI is going to take our jobs. You hear that almost daily now, and we don't believe it will, and certainly not in the short term. We were trying to go down the route of it augmenting what people do, trying to do the things that there's tasks in the automotive industry that historically people just don't want to do, and those things fall by the wayside, or they get done when we're really quiet. A classic would be following up amber work, for example. It's one of those things everyone says we want to do and we should be doing, but let's be honest, it doesn't happen. It doesn't get done. So we see AI as being able to step in with that type of thing. Being able to, AI is very clever now. It can make outbound telephone calls and actually book the customer in, have a two-way conversation on the phone. I experienced this yesterday, just myself. So this it's almost limitless of what we can do, but it's just trying to understand what should we do, and take that measured approach that I've talked about. Nevertheless, we've probably got, I don't know, 20 to 30 different work streams that we could use AI for. And it ranges right from the simple, like I say, rewording a phrase, right through to overlaying voice on video, subtitling video, transcripting phone calls, making outbound calls, you name it. We're exploring everything. Doesn't mean we're going to do it all, because some of it may be not cost effective or may be counterproductive to business process, but there's absolutely a place for it, and we just want to make sure we do it in the right way. So yeah, we'll be releasing our first AI solutions, just small ones, in the coming weeks, with plenty more on the way, which we hope people will be excited about and not fear that we are trying to replace their jobs with a system.
I love it. Watch this space. That's exciting. So let's go back to 1997. What one piece of advice would you give the Steve of then entering the industry today?
Wow. Think about that for a moment. It's a very powerful statement, the question, that, isn't it? I think, it's actually not my advice. It's a piece of advice that someone else gave me a long, long time ago when I was a teenager, and it was to never turn down an opportunity. And I've lived by that for the last 27 years in my career. You can look at my profile on LinkedIn and you'll see that I probably never did a role for more than 3 or 4 years. Even to this day, I've, and that, by the way, if my CEO's watching this, it doesn't mean I'm leaving. It just means that I like to evolve. I like to take on a new challenge, and I like to take on new opportunities. And that's it. I would go back and give myself that same advice that someone once gave me, because it's just, yeah, it's rang true for me through my whole career. And at any time an opportunity came up, I was like, I need to go and do that, because I'm going to learn, I'm going to evolve myself. And that's what I'm going to do.
Brilliant. What a great way to end. Steve, never turning down opportunity. Thank you so much for joining us today.
No worries. Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.